All right, so let me for a while talk about a little film called Brahmāstra, Part
Okay.
1 Shiva. So, how I stumbled onto this show here, right? As I said in my review of 3,000 Years of Longing, I was waiting for that movie to begin, and this trailer dropped,
Right.
and I look at it, and I was like, I
So,
need to see this as soon as.
yeah, yeah. So like I just get kind of a little worried of these Indian films because even though they're good, they kind of just be little propaganda kind of driven kind of thing. So like I like RRR, but yeah, it's some kind of Hindustani stuff. Like
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that was propaganda heavy.
yeah,
But
exactly. So it's like whatever. But yeah,
yeah,
I don't know how to feel about these products in that way. But like whatever, I mean, I watching Michael Bay movies how long so ever.
you
And,
know,
we just had a big vibe over Top Gun, and that I mean,
Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, right.
exactly.
So
Yeah, well, I actually want to bring, well, what I want to compare this show really to is, forgive me for this, right? But I have to compare this to the superhero shows that we've been getting this year in particular, right? But specifically from the MCU, right?
right.
Um, so what this is, the reason why I wanted to see this, right, is not just because it's a fantasy film. Well, it's actually a modern fantasy action adventure film, if you want to call it that, right? But this is part of what they call the Astroverse, right? So the moment I saw that, right, and I got a gist of what this show is about, I was like, all right, this is gonna be, the Hindu mythology equivalent of an MCU show, right?
Right.
And it makes sense, with the pantheon of heroes and gods and whatnot. So yeah, why not take that and let's just make some superhero series out of this, right? So technically, it's not a superhero show, right? But the way how it's set up and whatnot, the way how it plays out, it really does feel like you're watching a superhero show, right? That was one of the sells of this, right? But also touching on RR for a bit, right? This is another movie, another Indian film that is, that is credited as one of the most expensive ever made, right? And it really did show in the visuals, but in terms of
Yeah.
the really
It's very much.
spectacular visuals that I saw in that trailer, right? So, much to my surprise, this actually dropped on my birthday, right? So I went to the movie town, I saw it,
Mhm.
and I'll give my thoughts on it a little bit, right? So essentially what it's about, right? So we introduced the character of Shiva, right? That's actually his name, right? And he is a DJ, right? And in Mumbai, right? And while it's so funny how it's set up, right? So it opens with him, praying, and then he comes out and he goes into this musical number, and yes, as you would expect, he is the type of person who can get everybody up and dancing, right? It's that type of show, right? With everybody around him who never saw him before just suddenly start dancing, right? It's that type of show, right?
Right.
And during the dancing and whatnot, right? And we do see that yes, he is a DJ and whatnot, right? He himself and his two friends, they do these nightly gigs and all that kind of stuff, right? But during the whole number, he more or less falls in love pretty much at first sight with Isha, right? And just get this out of the way too. The leads themselves, they actually are married in real life, right? So that'll
Okay.
be
Right. Okay.
Ranbir Kapoor and Aliyah Bhatt, right? They are actually married, right? And I will like though, like seeing them on screen though, like just the way how they look at each other, especially the way how Ranbir looks at Aliyah, well, you could tell that they loved her. Like
Right. Right.
it shows by throughout, but it's really sweet. It's really sweet, right? But anyway, so one thing Lacey Dex said, he finds her, talks to her, and all that kind of stuff, and they build a relationship right off the bat, right? But during that time, she kind of learns some things about Shiva, right? So apparently he's been getting these weird visions, right? And it involves what it starts off with this particular scientist, as they call him, right? Who I didn't even know was I didn't even know who the actor was until I saw the credits. Was played by Shah Rukh Khan of all people, bro.
Okay.
I was
Well,
like, that was you? Like, really? You know what I
didn't
mean?
see you notice it. Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on it, dude. Jeez, right? But yeah, and even get to do a little bit of actually stuff in the beginning as well too. It's like, okay, cool, right? But yeah, apparently he is one of what you call he's a member of this group called the Brahmāstra, right? And what we learned through some exposition in the beginning is that it's basically like this secret society, right? So pretty much what they do is that they protect what they call astras, right? That these are these individuals with special powers, and they are usually linked to, the four elements and certain animals as well too, right? And pretty much their job is to protect this the Brahmāstra, which is this weapon, this supernatural weapon, basically, which is capable of more or less wiping out the entire universe, right?
Right.
So their job basically is to protect it, right? Make sure that it's kept safe, that it does not go into the wrong hands, right? So yeah, our hero is getting all these visions of, of the scientist himself, more or less being interrogated and given up the information as to where, it's basically like these three pieces of this particular I will call it a rune, if you will, but once it kind of comes together, it unlocks the power of the Brahmāstra itself, right? And where these astras are, their powers and all that stuff, right? So yeah, in that process now we're introduced to the bad guys, right? And the main one is Junud, who is technically the Queen of Darkness. She's played by Moody Roy, and I will lie though, it's a screen presence, boy, she have it, but she really have it. The joke I was making, even when I saw the trailer for the first time, she is pretty much Scarlet Witch. Like if you remember Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness, look at her, look at a still of her and tell me she does not look.
It's very, very deliberate. But and all of things
I feel is very deliberate. I feel
the word marketing, they just to remind you of a thing. Even though they probably had the original idea, maybe. Because that's like normal American thing, right? Just make it look like them come up with it, but not really does. Them probably originally are Indian idea at some point, that's sure.
Well, because she doesn't have the headpiece, right? But still, like the look and whatnot, it's basically an Indian version of Scarlet Witch, right? And like I will lie, every time I saw her, I was just like, yeah. No, she just have such great screen presence, though. And she sells the whole I'm a villain stuff very well, right? Right. So yeah, in a nutshell, she is just she has these two goons who end up acquiring these powers as well too, and basically they're just looking for Shiva, right? Because he is the Astra of fire, right? So just basically trying to stop him because and pretty much slight spoiler, he has the last piece of this device thing that will unlock the Brahmāstra, right? So yeah, it just becomes this wild goose chase now. So they're trying to they try to seek out Shiva. So Shiva, while Shiva and Isha, on the other hand, are looking for the other two individuals who pretty much they run into a guy who has the second piece, right? And he himself has powers as well too. It's spoiling the trail, unfortunately. And then that leads into them running into the leader of the Brahmāns, right? He is called Raghu, or they call him Guru, right? And he is played by none other than Amitabh Bachchan, the icon himself, the OG.
How old is
he? He is 79 right now, Trent. He's 79 right now.
Okay. I'm sure I'm who's on John Foster.
And dude, the man still have one of the best beards in the game, Trent. Like his beard, I want to have a beard like that when I reach that age, like swear to God, right?
Yeah, I'm Akbar to himself, right?
Yeah. So if you want to look at it as a superhero show, essentially he is the Xavier. He's the Charles Xavier of this group. Nice. And it's just these group of warriors who have powers, and they're just more or less supposed to keep the Astras safe, right? Because if they are killed and if they acquire that same device and they unlock the Brahmāstra, then it's the end of the world basically, and that's where I'll stop, right? And I should forget to mention too. And yeah, pretty much this is as you see, part one, Shiva. This is where Shiva more or less unlocks his powers. So he learns. Yes, he is, for lack of a better term, a firebender, right? He can't control the force of fire and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'll stop here, right? So as I mentioned, superhero shows, right? So for me, I couldn't help but kind of look at this show as, you see, like how, like for us, we've been marginally enjoying, the phase 4 of the MCU, right? And I know for like many people, especially those who just kind of call themselves cinephiles, right? I mean, and I know for sure there's we know about it, right? This superhero movie, Overkill, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's like every year we just get 5 or 6 superhero movies, and it just feels so generic and by the numbers and yada yada yada, right? I mean, we call ourselves fans of MCU, right? And to an extent, we kind of like certain things about the DCU, right? I don't want to go on some comparison or whatnot, right? But I would admit, yeah, there is superhero fatigue when it comes to these movies, right? So for me, though, it's always great when something fresh comes, where something is different, right? And this was what Brahmāstra was for me, right?
Right.
Now, narrative-wise, you kind of know the beats, you know where the story is going to go. If you're familiar with one superhero origin story, then you know where the story is going to go, right? But I mean, to be fair, the show does have its share of twists and turns, right? But you kind of know where the story is going in terms of the lead. You know how he's going to become the hero near the end, and you kind of know what to expect from it, right? But what I really appreciate about this show here is that it is based on Hindu mythology, right? So there's so much that you could draw from and really like express in this show here, right? Now, I've been seeing some criticisms about the show that really diving in too deep into it. But to be fair, I mean, this is the first of, well, what it is a planned trilogy, right? So it's like you're going to expect, like, like all the gods and whatnot in this one movie. No, right? But yeah, you see?
No, there's one of the weird aspects of this where you're not sure if you want to be quote unquote accurate about that or if you just want to make an entertaining story. Like Thor is not the Thor from
from Norse mythology,
from
right?
actual Norse mythology. However, what they will do with the Thor is like pull stuff from Norse mythology all the time just to tell those stories, or at least have some kind of conceit or reference in that. And it doesn't know how to feel about that now, one way or the other. Because we're gonna get weird with it is with actual Hindu mythology. It has so much Hindu mythology in terms of its timeline and its history and thing is just feel like too much. So like the MCU will be like, oh well, we have history of universes, and then it is get this kind of weird one-upsmanship from that. Because like the only reason I think this or know this is because I just follow like stuff on TikTok and enough times on YouTube or whatever it is, they'll send you this thing when I'm doing my research of actual history or whatever it is. They'll be like, we doing better than the MCU because our universe is trillions of years old. And like, yeah, but like you're done borrowing from the conceit that even though your stuff is original, quote unquote, it's still not that interesting because you're not the one who spread it in that same way now. Look, it's colonialism. I get it. Like you had to take it for what it is. But is how you sell the story as it is though. And that is where I feel this might end up going. Like they will just carry it in a way that it'll be too late and a lot of people just lose interest. I don't know if you get where I'm coming from.
No, I do. Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, well, this is where this mythology come from. Therefore, you should take this more seriously. It's like, yeah, but that's bad timing. like nobody interested at that point. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's that. Like I get it. As I say, Americans do that all the time, and they will still spin the narrative and storyline as if they invent these ideas. They didn't, but at the same time, it's more a marketing game. And look, sorry to say it, white people learn to do that shit real good, right? Just get you to take their shit seriously, even though they didn't invent it, right? It's an unfortunate product of the colonialism, right? I don't know, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's a good thing that you brought up Thor because this show in itself does feel like it. Where yes, it is drawing from mythology and religion, right? But not too heavy on it, right? So all right. So I would say for myself, I know little of Hindu mythology, right?
Yeah.
But it did not affect my enjoyment of the film, right? Like you don't have to know all the major gods to understand what's going on here, right? But what I do appreciate about the show here, I know this could be a criticism for some people, right? Is that it does not lean too heavy into the mythology itself, right? That's why I love the fact that it's set in modern times. We have a modern character. We're following him. He has powers. He learns about them. He learns where they come from. It's based on, Hindu mythology and gods and whatnot. But it's not like we have to get like a whole backstory into, Shiva's life and all that kind of stuff. It's not that, right? It's not drawing too much from that. It's just like he has the powers. They explain why, and it makes sense why and all that kind of stuff, right? So I can't say what was invented for the show. So I know a lot was changed up and invented for the show, right? But it's telling its own thing. But you could tell it draws from that from that
Yeah.
mythology, but it's not
That,
about
that,
that.
that's what I'm
Right?
kind of concerned about. It's one of those weird rabbit hole things where they will say, well, the Vedas is the reason why this and this so are scientifically accurate. And people like try to go down a rabbit hole, or you going to take this as way more seriously as this is. But like we already passed this bullshit. Like, we just, again, we talk about just, whether or not it should have a black mermaid, right? That nonsense, or black elves. It's that weirdness. You know what I mean? Like what is real mythology or what not? It gonna get weird and clumsy. This conversation
Yeah.
gonna get real awkward. Because again,
Uh,
a whole heap of energy was spent on whether or not you should take this seriously or not. So if they make up something, who gonna get punished for that? It's a weird argument.
Right. No, as you see that now, here's because when I got home after watching this, right? I was looking up some reviews of it, right? And at the moment, some of them were mixed, right? But
Yeah.
I am just speaking as as someone from the Caribbean, right? I could understand these criticisms where essentially they might find, some people actually find that it leans too much towards the MCU style of
Right.
of storytelling and all that kind of stuff, right? Other people
mean-
find that it should be its own thing, and it's too vague in terms of the mythology. I'm like, all right, yes, it is. What's that? Like,
Okay.
yes, it does feel like you're watching a Hollywood superhero film, right?
Yeah, but that's
It is marketed
Exactly.
like that, right?
Right.
But it has its own flavor to it, right? Now I'll talk about writing and stuff later on like that, right? But for you to come and say, well, it just kind of feels like everything I've seen before, but it's just with a different lens. I think it's unfair, right? I think it's unfair to kind of say, well, it's trying to be a copy of the MCU. It's like, no, it's inspired by it, but it's not trying to be it exactly beat for beat. It's just like, all right, we've seen all the heroes and whatnot. Let's try to do something of our own, but let's just do it larger than life. So if you look at that now and say, oh, they try to copy what the Americans do, I think that's like totally unfair. You know what I mean? So yeah, go on.
No, yeah, but they are kind of trying to copy what the Americans do, because that's what sells. Like, sorry,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what sells. So it's not to say it's
and short fact, I forgot to mention too. Even Disney and all is involved with this, right?
Right.
Because it's funny, right? So the opening for this is kind of funny because they have this studio, right? Star Studios, and it legit copies the same visuals and format of the 21st Century Fox logo, right? Even
Right.
kind of replicated the music, but just using more Indian traditional instruments, right? But the point is, I just read this up on Wikipedia. Star Studios is actually part of Disney. Well, it's actually part of 21st Century Fox, which is now part of Disney as well, right?
Right.
So yeah, Disney have a part to play in this in a way.
Yeah,
So
we just had a whole movie about the whole imitation of a franchise thing, like the internationalization, and it was the Chip and Dale movie,
Oh, right, yeah.
Is that playing into your own, as I say, you learn to sell your own ripoffs now. Because that's what this is. It's just, we're doing the MCU but India.
Keep in mind, listeners, with that calling this a ripoff, with that calling this a ripoff.
No, it's aesthetic. It's an aesthetic change. But again, the sell is that. Like, okay, is the Orville a ripoff of Star Trek? Kind of. It's catering to an aesthetic. But it is its own thing. But it clearly reminding you of something that, like, they know what they're doing. Let's admit that. But it's not, I mean, look, here's my thing. Look, once it's mythology, I don't have a problem with that. It's not like it's something as weird and egregious as doing actual history and then playing that as if it's a big thing. Like, they did that with a little movie that I was not a fan of, Harriet, right? Harriet Tubman.
Oh, yeah.
What that Marvel movie with
Harriet Tubman. The lead of which will come up in our next review, but
right. But that whole weird conceit of, do you want it to make it sellable and make money or not? And sorry, again, it's the art versus commerce problem, right? So I don't know. Look, in the end of the day, the money part comes first, so you had to do that. So like that's why I don't blame them for doing this and its approach. But that's the unfortunate side effect.
Yeah, you're right. So I would say again, just as an outsider looking in, I could understand the criticism. I could understand, I don't know if it's the same for like many people who saw it, in India itself. Like maybe they might look at it and think, oh, it's an MC ripoff. I honestly don't think so. I think that it is a genuine take on that mythology, but just it's in the 2020s, y'all, and we love superhero movies. Superhero movies are now accepted as part of, cinematic history and culture. So let's add that to this, right? And
Yeah.
again, it's not about the gods themselves. It's about this kid in modern times who becomes
Yeah.
part of this world. So it makes sense there, right?
Yeah,
Now
they
that
kind of
makes sense.
doing, as I say, it's a Percy Jackson thing in that sense, right? But again, sadly, the whole thing is. I could see a weird argument coming up where it's gentrification. Like, oh well, only because white guys did this and that's why we are taking this seriously. When we do it now, you saying it's a rip off, but they rip it off first. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation to have, right? But just
Yeah,
few before I wrap up, right?
right.
Now that being said, though, similar to RRR, this is one of those shows that does lean a lot into its genre, right? It's that style of cinema and whatnot. So you know what you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get the musical numbers. You know you're gonna get the heartwarming romance. You're gonna get the melodrama. You're gonna get the action. You're gonna get a lot in this show here. And this movie is about hour and roughly 2.5 hours basically, right? You get that here, right? And so if you are familiar with that style, with that Bollywood style, then yeah, you get that here, right? But it's just again within the story of this character who becomes a hero, right? That's really what it is, right? So you may roll your eyes at certain beats, or you may appreciate
normal Bollywood thing.
normal stuff, right? But
Yeah.
for me, I just went in knowing I was gonna get that, and I was enjoying everything, even the musical numbers, the romantic stuff. I was into it, right? I will say, as far as gripes go, well, there's a couple gripes. There is a certain pacing issue here or there, especially like in the first and second acts, right? I felt like there were some particular moments of downtime. Like I understand in terms of creating the character and the world and whatnot, but I felt like it kind of just slowed things down a little bit. And then now, well, oddly enough, in the nearing the end of the second act now, where we get to Amitabh Bachchan's character as well, his place, right? The Brahmans, which I'll call the Xavier man. Sorry, what it is way Xavier's
School for the Gifted. Yeah.
School for the Gifted. That's what I'll call
Right.
it, right? I felt here because we're introducing some new characters. It's just basic characters, secondary characters with powers and whatnot. That's why they did, right? I felt like those particular moments they rush, right? Because like, all right, well, we need to show how Shiva interacts with them and how he eventually learns about his powers, right? And then he finally learns how to control his powers, and it set to a song, which I actually did like, right? But I just felt like in those moments leading up to the song, this kind of rush thing. It's just like, all right, we have to show this, blah, 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 because the threat is coming. I felt they could have had a little bit more time to flesh things out a little bit more. Like I understand It's not about the school, but it is kind of technically about the group, right? The Brahmans themselves and their journey and whatnot, right? Now, some people was kind of criticizing the third act. Now they kind of felt like it was again leading towards Marvel territory, and it ran for way too long and blah blah blah. I was like, for me personally, I enjoyed everything about this. This was amazing, just flashy visuals, over the top stuff. It was just right up my alley. It really gave me my money's worth, but it was just so goddamn spectacular, right? And that's really for me why I could say about this show, Dread. This show delivered the goods, man. It lived up to what it was set up, where it was released, where it was setting itself up to be, right?
Right.
It's the first part of a trilogy, guys. So no, it's not going to be perfect, right? But it introduced the world, it introduced the characters, it gave you a reason to care about them, and that's really the most important part. You really did care about Shiva. You really did care about Isha as well too. To touch on the acting quickly, I thought that, performance-wise, everybody did a great job, man. Ranbir Kapoor, man, I mean, this guy is so likable, and his character is so endearing, Trent. You'll like the guy. You'll really like the guy. You will feel it for him, because, he goes through the ringer at numerous times in the show, man. You will feel it for this guy, Trent. And, of course, well, his relationship with Isha is great. It's warm. It's sweet. It's romantic. But I love the fact that they don't, like, hammer you over the head with it. Like, yes, she's there, she's a love interest, but she has a role to play in this as well too, right? She, in a sense, she is really support for this guy, and this guy really needs a lot of support. And when she comes through, boy, it's great, right? Junoon, like I say, great screen presence and whatnot, but she made for a great villain as well too, right? And again, because of the whole style of what they're going for, yes, the villains are I don't want to say cookie cutter, but they are the mwahaha, we are evil, we want to take over the world, mwahaha, right? If it's another gripe I had, I wish that they could have developed the villains a lot more, right? Because, yeah, they were just kind of like, two-dimensional bad guys. They were just like, ha, 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 right? But they were they worked for what they were, right? But really the sell of this as well, too. Oh, and I forgot to mention, too, storytelling. While it is not the best piece out there, it was really engaging. It was just vibrant in terms of just where the story was going. And just it just kept me, just engaged from start to end, right? And lastly, boy, them visuals, boy, whew, it really shows why this movie was currently one of the most expensive out there, boy. They really went out of their way to make this show look as gorgeous as possible, man. And just talking about just in general, right? Whether it's stuff involving visual effects or not, this is a gorgeous looking movie, right? I would say it kind of rivals what I saw with RRR in terms of just the visuals and this overall with the entertainment as well, too, right? Nice. So in closing, I know people will compare this show to RRR and say, well, RRR is better because it's more real, but or more realistic and more, it's about more history, while this one is more fantastical. But like I would say, try not to compare the two. They are two different films. They give it the same kind of entertainment value, yes, but they are two completely different films. And while I did not enjoy this movie as much as RRR, I mean, RRR just shines as just a great action film and just historical epic, right? This one, I would just say right off the bat, just works as a great superhero movie. And I would say one of the best, if not the best, I have seen thus far this year. I'm talking about, and we have seen Thor: Love and Thunder. We have seen Doctor Strange in Multiverse of Madness. Like this movie, this kind of came out and just reinvigorated me in terms of like just me enjoying a superhero film this year, man. This is one of the best I've seen thus far. I know we still have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever coming up, right? But yeah, this is I would just say right off the bat, MCU, DCU, you all have another contender here with this Astroverse here. This has me excited as hell for the next two entries. I just hope that they just kind of build things even more, man. We just get this spectacular trilogy of films that will rival anything that came out of Hollywood into the superhero genre, man. So yeah, if you all didn't realize it, yeah, I really enjoyed this film, man. I would dare say I love this film, man. So rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to a light 4.5 out of 5, man. This is absolutely worth checking out. It's not the most perfect movie out there. Just get this out of the way, right? And it will help if you're going kind of knowing, all right, it's a Bollywood film, so I know I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that. They're gonna real emphasize on that and things like that, right? So if you're going with that mindset, similar to RR, then you will appreciate and enjoy it even more. But if you look at it as, all right, this is us doing a mod, like a superhero movie in the 2020s. Because keep in mind, this is not the first time we've ever had a superhero movie come out of India. I mean, we had Krish, right, years ago, right?
Right, yeah.
Which I believe was a trilogy as well, too, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? Well, so this is nothing new, eh?
Was he one with the robot guy who used to make clones of himself? And was he
that one that we love to make fun of, the Terminator-esque guy who had his separate guns.
Yeah,
I forget the name of it though, but I hear that was really all that well received though. But that particular moment, and I love how, just slight little detail, how other trailers make fun of. They actually reference that in their review of our. That was funny,
and as I say, production value, that just make that better, Because to me, that no worse than that Michael Bay movie. In my opinion. No worse. Yeah.
But just lastly, in terms of production value, yeah, you really do see it with each and every shot of this movie. They pop a lot of cash in this movie, and it shows, right? Yeah. Now, again, it is escapist, so don't go into this expecting this thing to like seriously change your life or whatnot, right? It is pure escapism. It is a lot of fun. It does feel familiar to many superhero stories and just hero origin stories that you've seen year after year. But in terms of just bringing, just touching it on something that we've never seen before, this show gets mad points for that, man. So I wholeheartedly recommend checking it out in theaters. If you can, really do check it out. If it shows up on Netflix in the future, maybe that'll be cool. But if you could get to see it on big screen, boy, please do. This is easy one of the most enjoyable films I've seen this year, man. Best believe you could expect this to show up in my best of for this year, man. Definitely will check it out.